we have all members of the board here virtually as well, so we are good to go.
We are good to go.
Well, once 1 o'clock comes around.
Yes.
You hear the
Getting right into it.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Committee of the Whole for September 11th, 2025 for the Craddock Regional District. And I will acknowledge that the meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of Tla'amin Nation. Directors, you have an agenda in front of you as circulated. Pardon? Director Gisborne? Sorry, Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move item 14.1 from the FYI section to correspondence 6.3, since it is a letter from residents to the QRD board. Otherwise, I'm fine with the agenda. I'll move it as amended then.
Okay, as an amendment to the agenda. Yep. So the former 14.1 is now 4.3.
And
yes, Director Gisborne.
And I have circulated under new business notice of motions relating to the Myrtle Pond water system. It's just notice of motion for today, not for an action item.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so we can put the notice of motion under new business. We don't have a category for new business, but
9.
Oh yes,
Section 9.
Oh right. Okay. All right.
9.1.
Okay, 9.1. All right, any other changes to the agenda before motion to adopt? Seeing no hands, motion to adopt, please. Director Elliott and Brander, discussion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Minutes of Committee of the Whole from August 27th, that was our board on the road. Are there any errors or omissions from that meeting? Seeing no hands, a motion to adopt the minutes, please. Director Elliott, Director Gisborne, any discussion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Moving right along. We're on to section 4 on our agenda. We have 2 delegations registered. The first one is listed as Peter Armstrong, Liz Webster, Brian Craddock, Douglas Corbett, and Chris Philpott. But you might want to introduce yourselves and please come up to the table.
Thank you. Well, Peter, unfortunately, was supposed to be here and he wasn't able. He's come in just now from his car.
And presentations should be limited to 10 minutes, and then there will be an opportunity for questions after that.
So
go ahead.
Introduce yourself and then we'll see what Peter wants to do.
Sure, I can everybody hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much. First off, I apologize that I'm not there in person. The low clouds caused the Pacific Coastal not to be able to land at about 11 this morning. So I've been up in the air literally for the last 2 hours. I want to thank the board for allowing us to make this presentation, and especially the staff. They've been helpful along our journey here. I'd like to introduce our team. Today we have at the table, I see Chris Philpott, and I see from the Savary Island Volunteer Fire Department, he's our chief. Our deputy chief is Doug Corbett, and Liz Webster, who is my co-worker on this motion that we brought forward to ASIC a few weeks ago now. I believe also Brian Craddock should be on the line. Brian helped us with the technical stuff and knows the technical side very, very well. I'd like to start off by first telling you that we're volunteers and we're trying our very best to create a safer environment on Savary Island. I also would like to tell you a little story about a friend of mine, Rick Thorpe. He was an MLA and a cabinet minister in provincial government. And he had this great little ditty he would talk about. He would say that people would constantly come to him with their great ideas, and with his money or the government's money, they would make magic happen. Well, our group wants to do something different. We do have an idea, and we do have our own money. But with the QRD's assistance and their staff assistance, we believe we can make magic together, and we would like to explain that in more detail. In our report, we made 3 recommendations. One, we really encourage the continuation of Fire Smart. Second, we want to proceed and install sensors and cameras to provide new technology on the island. And this is all sort of subject to the final negotiations with our supplier, which we can get into a little later. We have three asks of the committee, sorry, of the whole, and that we need your assistance to enable this to happen, to make sure we connect with the right people, whether it be inside the district or outside. We need your guidance. We know that there's gaps, and we know that we have missed items, and maybe there's opportunities that we haven't also found out. So your guidance and assistance would be very much appreciated. And we also want your assistance to spread the word. So turning to the next slide, which I can't see, the number one concern on Savary Island was identified by ASIC in a survey in 2023, and that was fire. And it was significantly the number one item. And we as a group decided that we would see what we could do to change this fear into something better than just being something that we're worried about. So Liz and I, and with her support from her SILT board, we put forward a motion. And with 91 people present, 90 were in favor and 6 were against. Politics on Savary is very unique, as you can see. This project got great support across the island. Turning the page. In 45 days, we formed a committee. We put 2 task forces together to look at the tech and deal with the financial issues. And initially, we had about 30 volunteers working on this report, and another 170 plus people came together to raise over $400,000. We see this as a test project. We see this as something that we hope the regional district will support. We're not asking for any funding, and we're definitely not asking for any new taxes. Turning the page, the supplier that we'd like to use is SenseNet. Turning the page, it should be the next slide, please.
Are you seeing the slides? Are you seeing the slides?
I'm seeing just 200 plus right now.
Oh, it's not getting through to them then.
Okay. So I'm
Whole
assuming
screen is up.
excellent. SenseNet is a very trusted company, and it's increasing its credibility. It's been recently discussed in the BC government budget process to look for opportunities. The next slide, the technology that we're looking at has a two-pronged approach. Essentially, sensors spread across the island, and with cameras that really enhance the opportunity for our firefighters to know what they're dealing with. It all works through the internet, and there's a monitoring feature, and it can be connected to the 911 service. Turning the page, think of this project as essentially a household smoke detector on steroids. It's bigger and it's smarter and it can do more, but its basic technology comes out of that. Turning the page.
Second. I'm trying to catch up.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of words. Technology sniffs, highly sensitive, sniffing 27 different gases, determines fire growth and direction, and measures heat. An up to 10-year battery life, and this is a unit, one of the units that would go on a tree.
Yes, there's a physical example of it right there, which is amazing. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that.
And the system filters out legal fires such as chimney smoke, campfires, which we see a lot on Savary. Okay, the next screen is up.
Thank you. Our plan is to deploy the 90 sensors in maybe 2 phases. We're still in the final negotiations with SenseNet, but our idea would be phase 1 would be to do the Nature's Trust conservation lands with approximately 30 or 40 sensors. The actual final locations of these sensors will be discussed with property owners as we move forward. The next slide is the 4 cameras. And you want to cover this off for me, Doug?
Sure. So the purpose-built cameras that are 4 of them are off island, 50-kilometer range, and they're privacy protected. In other words, they blur out images of people and homes. The coverage includes Savary Island, and as a bonus area is covered by a QRD and the city of Powell River. Give you an idea, here's a picture with Savary right in the center, the 4 camera locations. These cameras will be used to verify. Once we've had some information from a sensor, we can use a camera to verify, or a camera will also pick up smoke in areas where there are no sensors. Well, these 4 cameras aim up here. The bonus is that they are searching on a regular basis all those areas. And what that brings us to is part of the regional district is covered, part of Texada Island is covered, and various other areas. And the city, yeah.
So as mentioned by Doug, this is a bonus, this extra coverage. We didn't anticipate it, and it could be of great value to all the other participants in the area. You want to lead off on this,
Yes.
Doug?
So here's an example of smoke detection done in Vernon. This event happened this year. The cameras picked up smoke in that square red area, and you can barely see it by naked eye, but it picked it up. And so they were able to fight this fire effectively. They have about 217 fires. Some were test fires, and they were testing the system extensively. Oh, sorry, wrong 17. So now I want to go back up.
Just over a minute left. Just
Changing to a video, just so everybody knows.
there you go. You want me to play it or do you want to
Yeah,
do-
play it. This is the chief
The
of
fire seasons
city of Vernon.
in many years, they're starting earlier and they're lasting longer. It really takes a toll on the resources. The way we normally get notified of a wildfire is someone sees it and phones it into 911 or into the wildfire reporting center. But what happens when there's no one there to see it? Yeah, this is a very innovative technology. The city of Vernon was a great community for what SenseNet was looking for. We're 95 square kilometers. We have tons of wildland urban interface, lots of forests and trees and lakes. We've installed clusters of sensors along with cameras, and all of them feed information into artificial intelligence. Currently, we have 150 sensors located through the city of Vernon, and those are focused in our wildland urban interface areas, so our highest risk areas. It's almost like taking a smoke detector from a building and putting it out into your woods. We can see 26 kilometers with a single camera, and I think we have access to about 9 cameras right now, so very powerful. What we've seen is the use of the platform has grown, and our emergency operations folks are using it to judge a fire spread. There's predictive modeling where they can actually tell, okay, this thing's going to be this many hectare in a few hours, and it's going to probably affect these areas. From a public perception, I think the amount of support we had to be trying something new and innovative, it was just very positive, very positive. The public loved it. There was something proactive being done to help make our community safer.
Rebecca, I need to go to the next slide quickly.
You should ask if we.
Oh, it's done. Can I request the time be extended by 5 minutes?
Yes, I don't, yes. Is it okay to extend the time by another 10 minutes?
Take 5 minutes. We're almost there.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's your 5 minutes, and then we have 5 minutes for very quick questions, which I'm sure won't.
In this video, he mentioned there was 26-kilometer cameras. We're putting 50-kilometer cameras in, and that's just the technology is improving over time. So I'll let Peter go through these. What we were specifically providing. Oh,
You carry on, Doug. You're doing a great job.
Hardware and software. Supplier SenseNet is providing installation, monitoring, training, maintenance, and operation. Fully funded by private donation and located on private land. No funding required from the QRD.
And I just add that in our report, and I hope you saw it, we made reference to numerous times that yeah, if this does not become part of a core, does not become part of core funding, we would then just carry on with our own fundraising to keep this going in the future. Over to you.
Okay, based on that, again, the three asks: enablement, guidance, spread the word. Engage QRD, first response, BC Wildfire Service, help us in some of those areas. Assist with any gaps that we may have and find more bonuses. And spread the word that this is something being done in this district.
So
Go ahead, Peter.
this terminates our formal presentation, and we're open to any questions that the board or staff have.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter, and all of you for your presentation. So we'll throw it out now to directors to raise their hand. I see Director Elliott. I will put myself on the speakers list. Go ahead, Director.
Had his hand up.
Lennox,
Do
Doctor.
you have your hand up?
Oh, I was pointing at Director Lennox on the screen.
Sorry, with who?
Director Lennox on the screen.
Okay, sorry.
There's too many screens.
Yeah, there's a word.
Thank you very much, Director Lennox. Duly noted. You are after Director Elliott. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Elliott.
Oh, thank you. This seems exciting and it looks like progress to me. I had just a question for you and for staff, actually. The question for you is, when you're talking about training, maintenance, operation, and who do you envision doing the operating maintenance, and who are we training?
SenseNet is going to help us with the full implementation plan, and that's part of our ongoing negotiations. This is obviously an area that we'd love to share with staff and get their guidance, because they've done this type of things before. But SenseNet obviously did it with Vernon, and it worked quite well. They do the maintenance. They make sure that the cameras and the sensors are properly monitored on a regular basis, and if they need to be changed out, they will undertake to do that.
Probably be, to answer your question also, they'd probably be engaging technical people on Savary Island. If necessary, they'll be doing that.
And my question to staff, if I may, Chair, is if we have a system that includes all this high technology, how do we make sure that it works seamlessly with our existing emergency response, and how do we make sure information is adequately dispersed to the folks that need it? And I think that has something to do with us.
That would be where we were looking for some guidance. Currently,
The question is, what do we do as a board to try and get this question before staff and on an agenda and all that
We
stuff?
could refer the issue to Mr. Thomas for review.
And we could do that
and report back
at the end of our question period.
We can.
Okay.
We can. Corporate officer.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, you could refer it to staff at the end of the delegation, or you could provide a notice of motion for consideration at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add, it's Brian Craddock. Peter mentioned my participation on the technical side. It's very important to note that as we plan to bring people on stream in terms of the district or first response or BC wildfire, there is a way that you can add the agents on to the interface as we go along. So we envisage this as being quite a quick installation, at least for the first stage Peter described. And then as we go along, we can work with the district and add whoever you wanted to add as point agents in this. So essentially everybody gets access who wants it over time to those 4 cameras and the sensor data. We don't want anything to hold us up. We want to be able to do this and then work with you as we go along.
Thank you very much. Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. I'm also not in person, obviously, so my other safety job called me away, so I can really relate to us trying to, the community trying to take action on a obvious safety concern. I understand the material well. I just wanted to go through a few things. It's obvious most communities wish for this type of involvement from their citizens and from groups, and this is a grassroots development and an action taken in a very short amount of time. I wish government could even go half as fast in that regard. I just wanted to ask a question around SIFDEC, we'll call it. So your committee has a mandate from ASIC, and so I've seen some emails and communication. Maybe explain what your next steps with ASIC. You're reporting up through them, and sort of what the recommendations. Will there be more recommendations coming from ASIC, or are you speaking for ASIC at this point? Maybe you could just explain that to the directors.
Thank you very much. We're not speaking for ASIC. ASIC, as you know, is an advisory group with no legislative authorities or powers. They have undertaken to promise to communicate with the broader community, and they've been living up to that. We're very appreciative of that. So we think we're now at a stage where we should be engaging with your board and your staff on the proper implementation of this.
Good, thanks. And just for the directors, some of the points about that discussion on page 3 of 52 and 7 of 52 about those recommendations that the group is discussing. You touched on coordination with BC Wildland Fire Service. I think that's something that I think directors are going to want to understand because of that broad coverage potential. We're about to go to UBCM, and we'll be chatting with other regions. So I think it's kind of cool to be at the beginning forefront of something, and again, being a leader in some of these areas, but we want to understand it. There's an economy of scale as well as other areas want to maybe take this on. I want to identify that you focused on the technical and financial to this point, and there's some insurance implications that you really didn't touch on that I heard in your original presentation around that it may actually reinforce the ability to get insurance for people in higher risk areas. So we don't have much time. I'll move on. There's a Savary wildfire plan, and of course the QRD. We have our, Mr. Toms is responsible for all of our planning and that. So we did have a meeting for the other directors. We did have a meeting with the group with Mr. Toms and our corporate officer, and I wasn't able to attend that, but I understand that we've asked for more of the information that we require from the QRD from the group. So I think, I guess the question for the corporate officer, have we completed that information gathering? Is there more to go? And then I have one final point.
I'll try to answer some of
Sure.
those. On the insurance issue, we thought there might be an opportunity for property owners to see a reduction in fire insurance. One of the volunteers that came forward was Sandy Miller. He is an expert in the insurance, and he did some due diligence. He found that most likely there is not going to be a lot of opportunity for that. There could be one-offs, but very not something to bank on. But he did point out that the insurers are looking all over the province at the insurance risks related to fires. So having this may be important because the underwriters fire survey, we're rated an 8. If we became a 9, we may not be able to get insurance, and it may become a requirement for that. With regards to the questions that QRD is developing, we'd love to see those when they're ready, and we'll respond to them as best we can.
Okay, thanks. And sorry, Chair, just finally, I think just to add to that, when we're going to ask our staff, we need to understand what the implications to our workflow for our staff. You have ambitious timelines that we can't be as responsive, but we want to understand that, and to take on a project of any kind. And I think one of the main ones that is a little still unclear for me is for our fire departments. We have a small department there, and I appreciate the chief is there, to receive the data, interpret it, and then use it to provide the fire service is where we need to understand more about how our department would absorb that material. There's been a question around training and some of the other technical stuff. So again, that's, I think, part of what we're going to look for about how would our department absorb that, and then the future other departments are going to ask the same thing.
Absolutely. I think this is a no risk opportunity for the QRD to see how this new technology goes. I've had similar experiences. I was the past chair of the Vancouver Police Foundation, and we would police officers would come to us with novel new ideas, and we would fund those ideas. And I would say better than 90% of those ideas had measurable positive results. And eventually those programs went into core funding because they were proven. This is a no risk to QRD to see if this works. And why we want you to spread the word is at your upcoming UBCM conference. That's a great time to talk to the people in Vernon and other places that have this technology. And with regards to the training, SenseNet is very keen to ensure that our team is knowledgeable. All calls would go through the 911 system. That's where we want to make sure there's no gap. And Brian Toms would be very useful and helpful to guide us through that. I hope I've answered your question, sir.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, this is why we're going to want to refer it to our staff. And I was going to say, what are the asks? But you've been very clear about, to this point, what the asks are. And I think it's about how do we help to enable it to happen. So thanks for your presentation.
If I could just add one thing, the long term, this equipment can last for a decade for sure, maybe even longer. In our negotiations, we're hopeful to get this servicing for a lot longer than the 3+ years that we've talked of. We were hoping to get it to 5, maybe longer. You know, depends on our negotiating team run by Kip Woodward. And if we are able to do that, you'll have a lot of data to look at before you make the decision. But the monitoring is actually the cheapest part of the whole equation. And it's like it could be $30,000 to $50,000. It's subject to negotiations and what services we ask for, of course. But what's interesting is, and I want to thank the regional district and the staff, you're giving us a $650,000 fire engine. Thank you very, very much. That is a huge investment. Nobody's talking about it. We're trying to give you $400,000 worth of hardware and software, and we're hoping that it'll be received in the same way that the fire engine is. And thank you for doing that.
Right on. Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if you need a motion or anything at this point, or if
we've got a number of questions coming up, so let's hold that thought for the motion. Okay. I'm Director Brander next, Director Gisborne, and then I'm putting myself on the list.
Excellent.
I'll ask for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, I noticed we were behind that time. So.
Great. Another 10 minutes. Okay, seeing thumbs up all around. Okay, Director Brander.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I've got 2 questions. You say that these sniffers are going to be located on public or private property. Do you anticipate any issues with getting permission from the property owners to have these things located on private property and have technicians be able to access that property to maintain or replace them?
So the largest property owner is most likely Nature's Trust. I'm a vice chairman there. I've talked to the current chair and the executive director, president, and CEO, Jasper. They have no opposition. Liz can answer for Silt, and I'm with my family, a large property owner with about 60 acres that we own on the island as a family. So, and we have no opposition. One person did phone me and say he didn't want a motion sensor on his property. And I said, really? Can I take it? And he said, wait a minute, am I making a stupid mistake here? And I said, yes. And he said, I want one. And it was the number one thing when we did our fundraising. People said, if I give you the money, do I get a sensor on my property?
I have just one more question on this spot. Not a follow-up, but a separate one. Have you been given any from SenseNet? Have you been given any stats on false alarms? Just out of curiosity, because any false alarm,
2 to 5%.
To go out there. Sorry,
2 to 5%.
All right, thanks.
Actually, the false alarms are coming down as we speak because the AI in the system, the more data they collect, which they're collecting on an ongoing basis, the better the false positive rate goes. So we understand that people in the fire industry and the first responders, the worst thing they can have is a fire that's called out that's false and vice versa. So SenseNet understands that, and they're working on making the algorithms and the detection even better.
Thank you.
And that ratio is less than a human system.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much. Next is Director Gisborne.
Oh, thank you, Chair. My first question is, BC Wildfire Service, have they shown any interest in these kind of programs? Because, you know, they're responsible for a lot of the crown land, and we've got huge tracts of land that of course catch fire. And have they kind of
BC,
responded with any?
so if I can answer that, Peter, BC Wildfire is an agent on that Vernon installation, which you saw from the Chief Lind in Vernon give the testimonial. So they are plugged in where SenseNet is operating. Again, you can become an agent and you get access to all the cameras and the notifications without actually having to do anything other than having the interface and give it to your staff with a short training session.
Very interesting. And then follow up, because I see there's like two pieces of equipment. One is the cameras and the other one is the sniffers. Those cameras, quite a bit of range. Do they also do like thermal imaging, like the infrared? Because for when you're at nighttime, you don't really see smoke, but like my security cameras, they switched to infrared at night. And after we did a burn a couple of years ago, all the fire was out. It was completely black outside. And I went and I looked at the security camera and the whole area was lit up. And I was like, oh, because there's a little bit of coals. So I was curious,
Yes.
do those cameras also do?
Yes, they do. The distance that they can see their view shed will be degraded somewhat because of the infrared, but they do it.
Oh, cool. That's it from me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So my question actually pertains to the frequently asked questions that you've included. I found those really interesting. When I got to number 23, it says that SenseNet does not currently dispatch 911 directly and isn't triggered. 911 isn't triggered by a SenseNet alert. Now, am I reading that correctly or incorrectly? And if it's correctly, then how actually do you detect the fire and how do you alert people who need to know?
Brian, do you want to take that?
Yeah, it's 911 is not seamlessly integrated into the process. However, again, using the Vernon example, they are an agent on the interface. So they will actually get notification, and they will get notification as quickly as the sensors pick or the cameras pick up the smoke. It's what they do with it that is the probably the issue and the question. But again, BC Wildfire, the first responders in Vernon, and the other agencies and the other private members of access to all those cameras the chief mentioned, they will be able to get the notifications and then deem what's necessary to do with them.
So 911 is alerted then?
They are alerted, but it's not a seamless integrated, they're alerted like everyone else. It just, if you were going to phone 911, this just will allow people in 911 to get notified much quicker.
Okay, all right, thank you. And the second part of my question was how do the sensors work? Is it smell, visual, or what is it that detects the fire?
So the sensors work on gas detection, but so it's gas, so they will sense carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, methane, a host of other things to measure environmental conditions, dust, whatnot. And then the cameras pick it up. They're using AI subtraction, so they're using differentiating between smoke versus cloud versus haze, anything else. So again, as machine learning that it ingests more data, the AI gets better and better.
Great, thank you. That answers my question. Anyone who has not yet asked a question in round one, Director Elliott.
I'm not in round one, I'm round two. I became curious, does the sending notifications and all of the talking this does rely on cell service, or is it something else? Satellite?
The notifications get pushed out. So if that's what you're asking, it's not something that you have to go out and query a database for. They will.
I was meaning, does it use cell phone airwaves, or does it use satellite, or is it something else?
So it'll use a combination of for the connectivity. So in a place like Savary, where there is some mobile coverage, but often it's degraded, there will be a satellite connection. So it will default to a Starlink connection to ensure that you've got stable, reliable connectivity, so you don't miss anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director Philpott.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I really appreciated the report attached to the agenda here, and also I received it separately. It's very thorough and answers just about every question that's been asked so far today.
Thank you so much, Director Philpott. Seeing no further hands, I want to thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And we will be most interested to see how you progress with this. And good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair and fellow directors. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Director Elliott?
I believe Director Lennox wanted to make a motion, and I would second that motion.
Okay. Director Lennox?
Thanks, and I'll defer to the corporate officer how to handle this. I was going to ask for a report on implications and actions to support the fire detection system, but if we need to just refer this so staff can understand, that makes more sense to me.
The motion to refer is there.
Just 1 second,
Yeah.
Chair. I think we would want to clearly articulate
Okay.
how deep you would want staff to go on this, and how to address it. So we would want to really articulate what that motion might look like.
Okay.
We could do that today, or we could work on it offline and bring it to a future meeting.
Either is fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine with me, Chair. I think we can work on it offline and get it done quickly and move it ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So again, thank you very much for your presentation. We do have a second delegation, and I welcome Jan Slakov from Texada.
I was worried.
That's okay.
I didn't push it.
They're ready.
So ours is actually a burning issue as well.
And see, okay.
Can those sensors pick up burning garbage?
I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
People say they wants to burn a bunch of mattresses. They even know about it.
The question.
Is Jan, you
Okay, and it's really good to see you here, Sam, because I know you were in the hospital.
Now, you wrote us a letter earlier this year, and we sent off a response to the police and the RCMP. And now you're welcome back again. And it's the same issue, I understand. So you have 10 minutes for your presentation, and directors may have questions for you after that.
Okay, yes. So really, we've got two main requests, is to do whatever you can to ensure that burning garbage is going to be drastically reduced. It'll probably never be completely undone, but to really, it's against the law. And the other request would be for some kind of educational effort. We'll get into that a bit more. So the reason I'm doing this follow-up letter and now appearing here is because I think the enforcement is falling between the cracks. It's pretty clear, because on the provincial website, it gives a list of all the things you're not allowed to burn, which includes domestic waste. And then it says to notify the conservation officer, which I've done. And they come over, well after the fire is out, of course. They'll never get there. Even if someone was burning in broad daylight on a working day, they would not get there on time on Texada. And they go talk with the person, but so what? They told me if they need proof. So I could go there and take a photo, but in the case of my neighbor, it's someone who I found out from when I spoke with the RCMP that he's not allowed to take his recycling to the recycling depot. And I know one other person, and I have as well, offered to take his recycling there, but no. So he's burning his recycling when it's legal to burn, not during the summer. So of course I'm anxious that the fire season is starting again soon, and our neighborhood is going to be wrapped up in cancer-causing chemicals. So yeah, the conservation officer has been there. I spoke with the RCMP, and actually someone on the public safety committee on Texada told me the RCMP could enforce it. But when I spoke with an officer, he told me we would need a bylaw. And then when you met and discussed this before, I gather you said don't need QRD bylaw, we've got the provincial law. So you can see how it's falling between the cracks, this enforcement issue. And an obvious thing that would need to happen if and when some real enforcement is happening is to let people know that now there will be enforcement, including in the middle of the night, which is when not just my neighbor, but other people who know that it's illegal are doing their burning. And you know, even if they do it in their home fireplace or wood stove or whatever, it's a real fire hazard, because when you burn and stuff, it gums up the chimney and causes chimney fires. So did you want to speak to the education part a little bit? Yeah.
Sure, just when you think about community, if we're reporting on our neighbors, that's not very community. You know, it doesn't bring people together. And I do have an example of where it's falling through the cracks. Like you can smell in our neighborhood, and I haven't ever reported anybody, but I do have a garden neighbor who's very passionate about it, and he will go and talk to people, but he goes over it furious because he's growing his food, and those sediments are on his food, so he covers his food. So there are definite, like in my neighborhood, I see it happening. And so one thing I'd like to propose was every October so far, I volunteer with Nature Kids, and we always, Gillies Bay Fire Department volunteers to put during Fire Week on fire safety for us. And I was wondering if there's someone we can ask from Kithet to come over and basically explain to people why we can't burn this and this and this and this. And I think it's just a culture shift. It's just like I was saying to Jan, when I was growing up, my dad used to throw his ashtray out the window of the car until we were like, "No, Dad." And it's just a shift. Some people have grown up rurally and done it all their lives, and they don't think it's a problem, so they don't stop. But I think it's a problem.
Yeah. Thank you. And so I'll open it up to directors if they have questions regarding your presentation, and I'm not seeing any hands up. I might ask one question, and not directly of you, but of staff, and that was with regard to the letter that we sent following up on Jan's presentation in May, and we sent that to the RCMP and to Conservation. Did we ever get a reply?
Thank you, through the chair. I actually am not sure of that. We were doing some research to see if we had received a reply. And if we do have, we will forward it to the board as a director's notification.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anyone else have a question? Seeing Director Gisborne and Director Ball. Okay, Director Gisborne.
Yeah, with the information we just got from the previous delegation about those sniffers, I'm just wondering if there's a potential opportunity there, maybe not for the regional district, but for the conservation officer service, because as is described in our information package or our information sheet, that it really is supposed to be followed up by the conservation officer service, and they do come out to my area when folks are misbehaving. But I do get the challenge with being on Texada Island where, I've lived on islands before. Police or conservation officer shows up, and next thing you know, it's on Facebook, and everyone's, they put everything away. So having something like that, maybe out of the jurisdiction of the conservation officer, because then it's not having to be up to private properties to say, "Hey, my device said this." The conservation officer could be potential owner. So I'm just wondering, is that something we should just kind of wait to hear back from that letter, and then we could potentially ask that as an idea, or I don't think we need a necessary motion for that, do we?
I would think so, but I'll defer to the corporate officer regarding, do we require a motion? I would think so.
Thank you. If the board is going to direct staff to do work, we would want a motion on that.
All right.
Then I would make the motion that the committee recommend the board direct staff to forward the sniffer information from the previous presentation to the conservation officer service.
Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? Director Lennox, okay, discussion on the motion. Director Gisborne, then Director Elliott.
Yeah, I'll be quick. The motion is essentially that the information that we got from the previous presentation regarding the early wildfire detection technology, there seems to be some overlap that could be a benefit to the conservation officer service. And essentially this motion is saying, hey, let's get staff to forward this information to them and we'll see what they come back with, if they come back with anything. But I figure sharing the information is a good start.
Thank you. Director Elliott.
So I got a couple of different thoughts, and one is that it's okay to forward it to the conservation office, but like the letter, it doesn't require them to respond. There appears to be a lack of surveillance and resources for enforcement for this issue, probably not just in Texada, but a lot of rural areas. And is there someone studying the idea of high technology to increase the ability of enforcement with the limited resources that we have? And if so, can we piggyback on that? And we don't know the answer, and so I think we need to do a little bit of legwork is what I'm thinking.
Okay, all right, thank you. And so your thoughts are in support of the motion or anything, or?
I'm in support of the idea. I just don't know that that's the right thing to do. I think we might want to explore where someone else has probably had this idea and might have made some progress as far as what to do to get towards better enforcement in areas where we don't have the resources to do it. And so we, the QRD, are also short on resources and don't want to be duplicating services that ought to be being done by the province, and that's kind of where we landed. And yet the province also doesn't want to increase the resources apparently. And so AI technology can make up the balance.
Jan.
So actually, in my most recent letter, I suggested something that might be relevant for that, which is, it seems to me we need to get in one room, the Conservation Service, the RCMP, URD, fire people, and really discuss how could we reasonably do this. Like, it seems to me on Texada, because the conservation officers don't live there, so when there's no ferries running, they can't even get there. It would make sense for the RCMP to be involved in enforcement, especially when we know that, you know, one of the people involved, at least one, actually has a criminal background and so on, and you know, they have lots to do, but they also have some time because it is an island of, you know, 1,200 people, so it's not like they're being called out all the time. Anyhow, I just think that that is something the URD might be able to do, is convene a meeting and say, this is falling between the cracks, obviously on an island, but in general, in rural areas, how can we make sure this doesn't happen anymore?
Thank you. And it's such a good question. Such a good question. I recognize Director Brander, but also Director Fall, you had your hand up previously to speak, and I imagine it was before the motion was made. So did you have a comment on the motion on the floor, or did you
I'll wait till after the motion.
Okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead, Director Brander.
Thanks, Chair. We seem to have gotten off of our usual habit of just asking questions of the delegate, and we've all of a sudden straight into different areas. But I'm going to continue that, I guess. I think this is probably a more appropriate time to not rush into any motions, take the information back. Directors can think about it and then present a notice of motion at a later date, so we have a bit of time to consider what direction we want to go. Let's not rush into anything. And maybe it is asking for a meeting with certain individuals, but I think at this point, because it is just the delegation stage, that rushing into a motion is a bit premature. Let's step back, let's think about it, and let's come back with a more informed notice of motion at a later date.
Okay, thanks, Director Brander. Director Paul? Sorry, Director Scott.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Director Brander, and I also wanted to remind us that the board is going to receive what correspondence might have come back from RCMP anyway. I think that's critical to before we actually take steps. I appreciate the motion on the table, but I think we could, I'm not going to support it at this point. I think it's premature to maybe taking more immediate steps, such as Janice suggested. But that depends on getting this information back and then moving that forward.
Okay, so just for the information of the committee, there is a motion on the table. I'm going to speak against the motion because I think it's too soon to be forwarding that information. They haven't signed a contract yet. They haven't got their final ducks in a row. So at the end of the day, they could well not opt for that particular solution because of circumstances that we can't foresee at this point. So I think it's it's premature. And I would agree that we should restrict any further comments to questions of the delegation, and we can discuss this again under correspondence. So, are there any further questions of the delegation? Director Gisborne.
Speaking to the motion that's on the floor, I actually agree with Director and the other directors. Any additional work I think is premature. That's why the motion is very simple. It's very low bar, which is essentially take the previous information and just forward it to the Conservation Officer Service. I do like the idea of having a meeting with them, but that's not the motion on the floor. That's why I put the motion forward, which was just to say, hey, let's send them that information regarding the technology. And, you know, maybe they look at it, maybe they don't, but I do think at a later date, we could have a notice of motion where we do ask, you know, for a specific meeting. But this motion before us does not restrict future motions. It is simply send the information to the Conservation Officer Service. That's it. But it doesn't restrict us from any future motions. I figured it was a low-hanging fruit that would be easy enough to just.
All right, thank you for making that really clear. Are we ready to vote on the motion on the table? Director Brander?
I'll just make one more comment. I am not going to support it. I'm uncomfortable just sending information to the conservation officer from the Catholic Regional District that we have just received. And it's not like our staff has had a chance to vet any of this information. So I'm hesitant to do so.
Okay, thank you. And calling the question then, all in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? I'm seeing 6 opposed, so the motion doesn't carry. Any further questions of the delegation? Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for coming before us. I think this is a really important issue, and it seems to be 2 pieces to it that you've alluded to. One is how can enforcement be improved, and the other is public education. And I think, as you pointed out, public education is a hugely lacking. When I look at the provincial website that has the prohibited materials burning fact sheets on it, that fact sheet doesn't actually describe anything about why those are bad to burn. Just as they're bad to burn, don't do it, or try to find alternatives. The federal government has actually a nice brochure, which I put on the chat for the committee. What goes up must come down. Open burning garbage is harmful to your health and the environment. So I think, you know, and you mentioned signs, but I guess, you know, I think there's also public education in terms of getting information in front of people who to understand, you know, the reasons. And in fact, maybe some people wouldn't do it if they knew that it would harm their health. They're getting dioxins in their lungs. So I guess the question, you know, bring it to a question, is this something, you know, what are your thoughts on, you know, a few more thoughts on how the public education piece can be improved, and in particular in relation to the, you know, the Texada Policing and Public Safety Committee, which the TACT website talks mostly about, you know, links with RCMP, but is that a feasible way to expand, you know, maybe seek expanding their authority to include this kind of public safety and health issue, and to be a conduit? You know, we're talking about meetings, we're talking about public education, signs, maybe brochures available or mailed. Is that an avenue where that committee could help, and then maybe think about this and then even come back to us to see how we might join in and support and so on?
Yeah, and actually I wanted to ask too, when Lisa suggested having information at their fall event, I was thinking that could be maybe the fire department, that job. But I'd like to see a pamphlet. I've seen that one I think actually I attached it with my first letter, the federal one, and it's good, but I have in mind to show a garbage can, incinerator, and just say, your neighborhood cancer factory, because that's how I see them. Might get through to people, especially if we emphasize that, back in the day, in the 40s, there wasn't much plastic. It was after World War II that, maybe in the 30s, after World War II, suddenly there was an explosion of plastic and styrofoam, and people were used to just burning, but now it's totally different. And I've had someone at a gas station, gas station owner tell me before, oh, it's made from petroleum. It's just like burning gas. No, it's not. So anyhow, yeah.
I also wonder, I don't know exactly how it would happen, but I do think that if it was able to, because I know they have Fire Safe Week, and they go to the school and then they reach out to the community, and I do think that they go hand in hand because it's safety. And honestly, children educate their parents all the time. That's like how we educated our parents about smoking. And that was a huge push while I was growing up, and it had a huge impact. So I think like that's a good place to start.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll just say one last thing, which is a whole other delegation, but I've spoken to fire people, Mark, Albert, and others, and they know about making biochar. But when we're making places fire smart, I just want to put it on the radar. It was on What on Earth on CBC as well, that you can use a kiln, but you can also just use a trench in your backyard. And what's amazing is you burn these dry branches that are a fire hazard, and it creates almost no smoke and creates then this soil amendment called biochar that Ron Barazan is selling like for $15 for a bag like that. So, and it can be used in forestry as well. It is being used. So I hope we move that way soon.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Right. Directors, we are now on to correspondence. Does anyone wish to pull an item of correspondence, Director Paul?
6.3.
I beg your pardon?
6.3, which was formerly 14.1.
Former FYI item, okay, and I will pull 6.1, which will be the new, so the 6.3 is now 7.1, and 6.1 is now 7.2.
And 6.2.
Pardon?
And 6.2.
Okay, that's 7.3. Okay, that's it. All right, so we're on the former 6.3, which was the former FYI item. Director Fall.
The residents that wrote this to us raise a number of concerns regarding conflict between public safety and use of a section of Weldon Road that leads to the ramp. For those who, if you remember being on Lasqueti, it basically joins Main Road right up, just a little bit up from the dock, and it's a couple 100 meters long to where the side branch goes down to the ramp. The 100-meter branch that goes to the ramp. The request. They're making a request for us to improve and widen Weldon Road, which is clearly outside our jurisdiction. However, we do have a role, some sort of relation here. We maintain the barge ramp, which is the main, the use of the barge ramp is what's the source of these concerns. And our waste management service also contributes in part to the concerns raised. So I at this point, I will just make a notice of motion regarding advocacy that we might do to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit regarding this issue, which will likely be in the form of a letter asking the ministry to look into the concerns raised and maybe forwarding the letter to them. And I'll prepare specific wording for our next committee of the whole meeting.
Received as a notice of motion. Thank you very much, Director Elliott, on this item.
Yep. So I recall that we were going to restart or continue with the Ministry of Transportation local folks meeting with our QRD, and wondered if we shouldn't forward it to make up part of the agenda for our next one.
Okay.
I would leave that to Andrew or someone to motion, but I'm making the suggestion that we're supposed to be having these meetings regularly, and that we put items forward for the agenda, and this could make up one of those agenda items.
I believe we have a meeting scheduled with MOTT. Director Paul?
I'm happy to do this, and I'd like to hear from the committee, but I guess I have a question back. The area is a different area. We're managed out of the Nanaimo office, and so I don't know if that's really, if they will actually have the focus of, they won't know the road, they won't know anything about it. So I think we do have some connections with the area manager and the local area supervisor and so on. So I actually think it's maybe a little maybe it's in their wheelhouse. That would be the area that would decide on that. So if Director Elliott thinks that committee would like to talk about it, I'm more than happy to send it to them, but I think it's maybe better to find a way that gets the information to the Nanaimo office.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. So notice of motion is received on that item. Is there anything else on 7.1? Seeing no hands. Let's move on to 7.2, which is the former 6.1. And I ask that be removed because I'd like to send, I guess, a follow-up letter to the two departments that we wrote to before, the RCMP and Conservation, and ask them if an action plan or a plan of any sort has been developed to address the issue.
Second.
So I'll make that as a motion if there's a seconder.
Second.
Okay, Director Fall, thank you. I'd just like to see this followed up because all over the province, these things are falling through the cracks. And so let's try to address it. Let's ask them for a plan or some defined action that they're going to take. And if we don't hear back, then I think it would be appropriate to ask for a meeting of the two. But at this point, I'm willing to take a follow-up letter asking for what their action plan is and take it from there. So further discussion on this motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we're now on to 7.3, which is the former 6.2. And Director Gisborne, I think you asked for that.
Yeah, I'm going to start with a question. I think I saw Patrick Devereaux online. As I'm aware, the BC Transit has been doing their Power River Regional Transit Future Service Plan Survey. I think that's the correct term. I believe the survey was done in June. And I think there was some information that was put out saying that, they will come to the municipality and regional district, in the summer or early fall. This correspondence speaks directly to the kind of information that BC Transit is looking for. I always found it a little odd that, Area B has some of the higher development along the highway between Rifle Range Road and Maris. So that includes the regional district's Myrtle Pond water system. And they don't get bus access, which, myself in Paradise Valley, where we have a lot of ALR, which is everything's all spaced out, we do get bus access. And that's one thing that's kind of been people are like, why is that? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I guess my question, I think Patrick Devereaux might have the answer to this. Do we know when BC Transit is planning to come in and let us know what the survey results are? Because, maybe the results come in and they say, hey, we're going to adjust the bus schedule, in which case we don't need to do anything. Or that's kind of my question is, what's the timeline with BC Transit, or have we not heard anything?
Mr. Devereaux, do you have that information?
Yes, Chair. Through the chair, I don't remember the exact date for sure when the service review is going to be complete, but I believe it's before the end of the year. This item is part of that service review, so they recognize that this section of Highway 101 is a void. There's a 2-kilometer section that doesn't have bus service. City service stops at roughly Beach Gardens, and the rural service goes by on Maris. So you got that section there that's without it. But like any service change or improvements, it comes with a cost. So if BC Transit comes with a proposal, it would come to the board. The board would look at those service either extensions or adaptations and get to have a say in that and approve any further expenses. We wouldn't see that until at least January if something like that was to come about, with just a proposal. And of course, like every other service expansion, it would have to go through the normal processes. So through the budget, through BC Transit's budget, and then to the province for their approval. We saw how long it took for the Texada expansion to take place. But that all said, the Texada expansion is going to happen in January. That brings a new bus into town for us. That gives us some a slack more in the system to add service. I hope that answers your question, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Devereaux. Director Elliott.
I think my question is also for Mr. Devereaux. And my understanding is we're currently in the middle of a service review. And is there a role for us to take this letter or correspondence or the issue that they're concerned about and advocate for options for solutions to this through the service review that's happening right now? And I think you kind of answered it. I just wanted to know if we can be a little more specific about whether we have a role in using this letter to advocate in the service review currently, directly.
Mr. Devereaux.
Yes, through the chair. I did send this correspondence already to BC Transit. I let them know. I sent it to their service review people so that they understand it's like every other bit of correspondence, survey, public engagement they've done so far. I thought it was a good idea to have this there too, so that in case it wasn't brought up during their visits to Powell River, that it would be at least on their radar. The board could ask them through a letter or something to specifically look at this, but I really don't think that's necessary.
Thank you, Director Elliott. Might be a suggestion, though, for residents of Area B to fill out the survey, as many as possible.
Survey is closed.
Right, I beg your pardon.
Survey is closed now.
Pardon?
The survey is closed now.
The third what?
Survey's done.
Oh, it's closed now. Sorry.
Survey
Okay.
is closed now.
Okay, well, there you go. So that's not a good idea. Okay, any further discussion on this item? Director Gisborne.
I just want to say thanks to Patrick Devereaux, because one of the reasons I pulled this was maybe we should forward this to BC Transit, but he's already done it, so thanks. That means we don't have to do any action item at this time.
Okay, so there's no notice of motion regarding an advocacy letter?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right, thank you. So that concludes business arising from correspondence. We are on to reports. And 8.1 proposed Island Trust Policy Statement Bylaw. Sorry, who had his hand up? Director Fall? Sorry, Director Fall.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Director Southcott. Discussion. Director Fall.
Thank you. I really appreciate the work by our planning staff to review this referral and to write the report we have, given that Lasqueti Island does not contribute to the planning service, so much appreciation from us. I agree with the recommendation, but do have a couple comments. As the staff report points out, the Islands Trust policy statement has a similar function to a regional growth strategy, and I think that's a very good way to think about it. It acts like a meta official community plan in which all affected official community plans must be consistent with it. So it sets a kind of framework of objectives that must be that other OCPs must be consistent with it. The staff report also nicely lays out the legislative framework for the Islands Trust. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to all collectively figure out how the Islands Trust works. I would like to qualify the staff report statement that the policy statement will have no effect on any QRD OCPs or LUBs with the phrase OCPs or LUBs that are administered by the QRD. The QRD services on Lasqueti are subject to the Lasqueti OCP and land use bylaw, even though it is administered by the Islands Trust and not by the QRD. So it's not one of ours in terms of administering it, but it is one of our OCPs in terms of being within the realm of the regional district. So it is an OCP we are affected by. That said, I completely agree with the staff report that the policy statement will not affect our services that we provide on Lasqueti Island, nor do I see any significant future impact on QRD services on Lasqueti that may be affected by potential changes to the Lasqueti OCP and land use bylaw that might have to follow and conform with this new policy statement if it gets adopted. So I think the recommendation is appropriate, and with that, I hope it passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Fall. Further discussion, Director Elliott.
I think I heard Director Fall say that the word interest is not, should maybe be changed to something else. And if that's the case, I do agree with him, because the word interest is rather broad, undefined, and may include things that we had not imagined at this point. And so I think being specific about what interests we're talking about is a better idea. And so I would second a motion to change the word interest if Director Fall thought that was warranted.
Director Fall?
Okay, thank you. In fact, that's a very good idea, Director Elliott. So maybe, so let me try this. I'll make an amendment to add after the words interests with respect to regional services. And so then it would be that the Cathet Regional District's interest with respect to regional services are unaffected by.
Okay, thank you. And that's
we're staying in our house.
Seconded, Director Elliott. Okay, on the amendment, anything to say on the amendment? No hands on the amendment. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Back to the main motion as amended. Is there further discussion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. We have no new business. Question period.
We have new business.
Okay, but Director Gisborne, you raised a 9.1, but then you said you were not going to put that forward, the notice of motion.
When we adopted the agenda, I put forward notice of motion for 9.1 and circulated.
Okay.
So I can read it out so that everyone has it. I also circulated to all directors. So this is a notice of motion for the upcoming October Committee of the Whole meeting. The first is that staff be directed to bring forward amendments to the Myrtle Pond Local Area Water System Rates and Regulations Bylaw number 596 to reduce the minimum charge from 30 cubic meters of water in the summer and 20 cubic meters of water in the winter to 10 cubic meters for the principal dwelling and 5 cubic meters for ADUs, and to include options for increased rates for high consumption rates 3 and 4 for months when stage 4 water restrictions are in place. And the second, which is a kind of a block of notice of motions, the board directs staff to bring back a brief one-page report on the following. The staff be directed to issue an RFP for anyone to provide a minimum of 250 cubic meters of water per day and of a sufficient quality to meet the requirements of the Ministry of Health. That staff be directed to post monthly status updates at the bulletin boards while stage 4 water restrictions remain in place, to engage with residents between Rifle Range Road and Myrtle Pond Water System regarding participation in the Myrtle Pond Water System expansion and capital inclusion charges. That staff to provide a report with a framework on the creation of a non-potable water harvesting rebate program similar to the SCRD's rainwater harvesting rebate program, and that community works funds be considered for allocation towards this program, and that staff be directed to contact AECOM to request an update cost of options 4 and 5 of the 2009 Southern Region Water Source Study, and that an intake pipe at the south end of the lake be considered as an option. And just the reason why, the one-page report is some of these items, the staff might come back and say, we can't do this, so there's no point in having a big report. So
right, and this is a notice of motion, so we are not debating this at this time. It's merely a notice of motion for the next committee of the whole. So we are all aware of that. Thank you, Director Gisborne. Now we're on to question period.
Hello, Chair Galinsky from the Peak here. I don't have any questions for today. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Anyone else out there? Nope. Okay, thank you. We have an in-camera session. Director Gisborne, you want to read the closed session?
I'll move the committee move in camera that the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent for the regional district or another person or another position appointed by the regional district. C, labor relations or other employee relations. I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a regional district service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the committee, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the regional district if they were held in public. And N, the consideration of whether a committee meeting should be closed under provision of this subsection or subsection 2.
Thank you, Director Gisborne, seconded by Director Southcott. Discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We're going in camera.
I started.
Emmanuel, you betcha. Okay.
David, come on, quick minutes, we have the recording in progress sound, and then we'll be ready to go back and go.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back to Committee of the Whole. We have no rise and report, so our meeting is adjourned. Thanks very much for joining us.